Pregnant ex demands child support for a baby I'm not the father of. My ex, 25-year-old female, and I, 27-year-old male, were together about 6 months, but during that time we were free to see other people. Things weren't working out, so we broke up. Over a year after that, she finds out she's pregnant and tells me the baby is mine. But I already knew she was seeing other guys, so it was also possible the baby isn't. She got mad that I was having doubts, but I said if we got a paternity test and it showed I'm the dad, then yeah, I'll be 100% involved. My ex didn't want that, and she'd rather wait until after the baby's born to get a test done, so I said, that's fine, it's her choice. But I won't get myself involved unless I know the baby's mine. Like, I already know I could be set up for child support if I start helping out now and then it's later revealed I'm not the father. I live in the US and have heard this stuff happens a lot. I'd rather not even risk it, you know? She's about 8 months now, and I've already started saving up money, reading up some books, making shopping cart lists of baby clothes and furniture to buy in case I am the father. So it's not like I'm not preparing for this at all. So right now, money's tight with her since I know she's only working part-time. She doesn't have the money for a baby bassinet or clothes because she practically lives paycheck to paycheck. She started asking to let her borrow money for baby stuff, but I've already told her no. As far as I know, she doesn't have other family she's close to, and friends are the same as her with money. But I already said I'll start giving her money and helping out once I know her son is mine. Otherwise, I'd rather not get involved. I've told her to reach out to the other guys who could also be the dads, but she said one is even more broke and the other hasn't even been able to be contacted. So for right now, seems like I'm the only one actually able to offer financial support. We have a couple mutual friends and I'm getting shit from them because they know I have the money to help out. She could be the mom of my kids, so the least I could do is provide. They say they would if they had the money. Since I do have the means and this baby could be mine, I should already be helping. They have a point. The baby could be mine and I'll be happy to help out once I know he's in fact mine. But everyone else is seeing it as I'm being too cold and inconsiderate. I don't think I am, but I want to know what others believe. Am I the jerk? What a mess. I'm sorry you're in this situation. Your friends are right. You should be helping out financially with the baby, especially if it is yours. But as someone who's been in your shoes, I understand why you don't want to get involved until paternity is established. Paternity fraud is very real and very common these days. It's not just some urban legend. People do it all the time. And it sucks when it happens to you because it means that you've spent money on a child that isn't yours. I really hope that the test comes back positive and that you're the father of this child. If so, then congratulations. You'll have a great opportunity to start building a relationship with your son or daughter from birth. But if the test comes back negative, well, then your ex has gotten away with paternity fraud and will be able to continue collecting child support from another man for her son or daughter. My entitled teacher threatens me for money because I'm well off. I, 25-year-old female, play tennis regularly and I train 3 times a week with 2 different teachers. One of them just started training me as my usual teacher was not available in my time slot anymore. My dad, we train at the same facility, wasn't thrilled about this as he told me people he knows don't like working with him. However, he didn't know specific reasons. However, I didn't have issues with him since we started our sessions in April up until a month ago. I pay for my classes in advance, so I paid for my May classes since April. My first issue was when the teacher asked me for payment mid-May again, and I felt like he tried to guilt trip me by telling me he was in a rough spot financially. I told him I already paid and he left me alone, but went to my dad and tried to get payment from him. My dad, bless him, paid him the month of June in advance for me, so he'll stop bothering me. Yesterday, he straight up just asked for money, about $50 and that he'll repay me next class. I don't feel comfortable lending money to anyone, let alone someone I've known for 3 months. However, he went again with the guilt trip about his family and his children. I ended up just ignoring him until he didn't message me anymore. I feel terrible and can afford the money, but it is the principle for me, as I don't know how he feels comfortable to constantly be begging me for money. I'm not even comfortable with having classes with him anymore, but I know he will take a hit financially if I don't pay for my classes, and more so, my sister also trains with him and will drop him if I do. He doesn't ask her for money as she is still a student. Am I the jerk? I feel terrible and conflicted. I'm sorry that you're in this situation. I would be uncomfortable with lending money to someone who's a stranger, let alone my teacher. I think it's important for people to realize that teachers are not your friends and they shouldn't expect anything from their students other than the time of day when they come into class. If he has children, then maybe he should have thought about how much his job pays before having kids, or at least making sure there was some sort of financial support system in place so he wouldn't have to rely on others for helping pay the bills. It sounds like you've been very clear with him regarding payment up front, but if it continues after multiple conversations, then just stop going because honestly, what kind of person asks their student who's paying them for extra cash? It doesn't sound like something any professional would do, especially since most schools require payments up front anyways. Am I the jerk for giving part of my inheritance to my brother when my sister needs it for her IVF? My 65-year-old father died a few months ago, and his estate is now being divided between me and my two siblings. I have enough money and don't really need the inheritance. My siblings and I were talking about the money that is supposed to be divided three ways. I'm childless, my 33-year-old brother has three small kids, and my 41-year-old sister has been trying for a baby for over a decade now. I told them since I don't need the money, I'm thinking of giving it to my brother because he's been struggling financially and can use the money. My sister asked if I could instead give it to her for her last round of IVF. That would cost her share plus my share of the inheritance, as it's her last chance to have a baby. I told her I'm sorry, but our brother doesn't have much money and has three kids depending on him, so I feel that it's better he gets my money. She asked me if my brother's kids are more important than hers, and I said, well, yes, the living children take priority over the imaginary ones. She was very hurt, called me a jerk for one, not helping her out, and two, insulting her and belittling her struggles. I don't have children myself because I struggled with infertility during my relationship with my ex, so I know where my sister's coming from. I'm sorry for what happened between you two. I know how much your sister means to you, so I can imagine how hard it must have been for her when she found out about your decision. I don't have kids either, but I can understand how she feels. It's hard to hear that your sibling doesn't think you deserve something because of a medical condition. I'm sure it would be nice if you gave her the money instead of your brother, but at the same time, it is your money and you can do what you want with it. You have every right to give away your inheritance however you want, and there's nothing wrong with you wanting to help out someone who needs financial assistance more than your sister does. Your sister should just accept the fact and move on with her life. My husband cheated on me with his fit and skinny gym friend. I came home from work early, I'm an OB nurse, so my hours are pretty unpredictable, and found female sneakers in the garage that weren't mine. At that point, I sort of already knew what I'd be walking into. My husband has recently become very fit and has been consistently going to the gym, during which he made a female friend who he even brought home for dinner last week. She's beautiful and thin and everything I am not, which instantly made me feel horrible, so I talked to him about it. He encouraged me to build my confidence and reassured me he loved me and would always be loyal to me. I walked into the laundry room from the garage and sort of tiptoed around the house before going upstairs. They were having sex. In our bed, with a framed picture from our wedding above the nightstand next to it. I silently left the room and got back in my car with tears streaming down my face and drove to get food and just sat in my car crying since. It's now almost 1 a.m., walked in on them at 7 p.m., and I've returned to the hospital. He called me asking why I wasn't home, and I told him my shift is extended, but in reality, I'm laying in one of the on-call rooms bawling my eyes out as I type this. I feel so worthless and ugly and stupid. I don't even know how to proceed. On one hand, I want to divorce him and never see him again, but on the other hand, I'm an ugly woman. It's not like I can do better. I just want to die. I feel so gross and the self-loathing is getting too much right now. I think the best thing you can do right now is take care of yourself. You've been through a lot and you need to focus on that for a while. You're not ugly or worthless. This guy's just an asshole who clearly has some serious issues. You're a great person and you deserve better than this, but that's up to you. There's nothing wrong with taking some time to yourself before deciding what to do next. Am I the jerk for giving my ex extra money towards child support? I, a 38-year-old male, share 3 kids, 12, 11, and 9 with my ex, a 36-year-old female. We've been separated for 8 years, and I've been with my partner Zoe, a 31-year-old female, for 7 years. I pay child support at $200 fortnightly, $400 monthly, and my ex gets single-parent payments, $970 fortnightly. She also has a government house, so rent is $110 weekly, but she now shares that with her partner of 2 years, and they split the bills 50-50, and he has a well-paying full-time job. Zoe works 3 jobs, a morning and an afternoon job at a school, and also works as a student support worker at the school. On Saturdays, she works in disability, taking care of disabled children for a few hours to give caregivers respite. She earns about $1,700 fortnightly after tax. I earn $1,000 weekly. I feel bad for not being there to support my kids as they live 3 hours away and will give my ex extra money to help out. $120 for their shoes each, $150 for their sports shoes each. I paid $100 towards their music lessons weekly for 2 months until I found out they stopped playing and ex was keeping the money. I pay for uniforms, Robux, tablets, bus tickets to school, sports uniforms, etc. And when not paying that, I pay about an extra $200 weekly to my ex. Zoe asked me to stop paying so much extra because it is sending me broke and she has to give me her money to cover half the rent, power, water, and put petrol in my car, which then leaves her with no money. It's true that I give my ex the extra amount and leave myself short, especially considering we are paying a house loan on top of our rent. So sometimes Zoe has to cover my rent and the $230 for my part of the loan repayment, as well as buy the week's food. She said that for a while, can I just give X $50 extra if I really want to pay more child support instead of $200 plus? Because she's working 12 hours Monday through Friday and had to take on a third job just to keep us afloat, and she is struggling. I said it was not fair of her to ask me to stop giving my ex more money towards supporting my kids. Zoe said she has no problem with me giving ex more money and more child support than the allocated amount, but that I'm being an asshole by leaving myself short and needing her to cover my costs. She said she is supporting us both. I told her I thought that's what a relationship was, knowing your partner has your back. Clearly Zoe doesn't have mine, but my sister called me an asshole and said Zoe has a point. I'm sorry, but you are a jerk for giving your ex extra money towards child support when she's living with a partner who has a good job and is able to contribute financially as well. I'm not saying that the kids shouldn't get anything from their dad because he isn't around or whatever their reason may be, but I'm just saying that if they have two parents who can afford it, then both of them should pay equally in order to make sure the children aren't missing out on things like school trips due to lack of funds. Considering this girl has been supporting herself since before meeting you, I think it's pretty unfair for her right now to have another person relying on her while trying desperately hard to not go broke every month. It seems like everyone else gets off easy except for Zoe. My girlfriend, 24-year-old female, told me she's pregnant, but I am sterile. I got into an accident after my college and will never be able to have kids. None of my family members know of this. They know about the accident, but not about this. I've always wanted to be child-free, so it didn't affect me much mentally. I finished my master's degree last year and have never dated before. I got a very high-paying job directly through campus placements. My parents immediately wanted me to get married after getting a job, but I wanted to work on myself and explore a bit. They said no, and I said that it was my wish. All my life, I did what they wanted, and for the first time when I talked against them, they were not happy. This was last year, and they gave up after COVID started. So I picked up some dating apps and went through them, but no luck. Then my parents introduced me to a family friend's daughter, and we clicked, kinda. Looking back, I was a fool. She said yes to anything I said and never complained about anything. I felt kind of weird about it. I wanted her to express her interest, but she always said she was interested in whatever I do. Well, I did not think much about it. I said that I won't have kids ever, and she surprisingly said okay. I was like, damn, she's probably the one, as it is very hard to find a partner who is child-free in my country, or at least I thought. But we were in the initial stages, and I've not told anyone about my accident. Long story short, we had sex a month ago. I used condoms because safety first. The next day on, she started ghosting me a bit. I thought it was due to my performance in bed and wanted to give her some space. Then she texted infrequently and only replied okays and Ks and one-liners. Thought maybe she wanted to end the relationship and was sad, but left it at that. Yesterday, all her family came to my house and she claims she's pregnant and the father is me. Needless to say, I freaked out and wanted to collapse on the ground. I did not say anything while they were talking about marriage and stuff. That needs to happen because I got her pregnant. What should I do now? I feel so lost. I'm sure you have a lot of questions and a lot of thoughts about what just happened. You're probably also in shock about it all. I can imagine this is not an easy process, but if you want to get some answers from her, maybe you should ask her directly if she'd been with someone else since the two of you were together. And why would your family believe her over you? Maybe because they don't know what kind of person she really is, but from what I read, there are many reasons why people lie or hide things from others. Maybe because they feel like they can't trust them enough to tell them their secrets. Maybe because they don't want other people's opinions on their choices or decisions. Maybe because they feel like others will judge them or look down on them for doing something they aren't supposed to be doing. It's hard to say without knowing more about this girl and what type of person she is. But in any case, I hope everything works out well for both of you. Dad grounds daughter from therapy for bad grades. Am I the jerk for canceling my daughter's therapy because she has bad grades? My daughter, who's 14, has anxiety problems and has had them ever since she was little, but it was not severe. 3 months ago, my daughter changed drastically. She stopped eating, talking to us or her friends, and her grades dropped. We were really concerned, and her teacher strongly suggested we take her to therapy, which we did, and she was diagnosed with severe depression and social anxiety, which was expected. The therapy sessions look like they helped her well. In the first month, she already began making progress and started talking to us and her friends again, and is eating whatever her mother is cooking. We were really happy to see this, and every day she would get better and better. The thing is, her grades did not. They are terrible, and she ended up barely passing the year. This is what infuriated me and made me cancel her therapy sessions. I know to some it might sound terrible, but paying $120 per session and seeing no progress in her grades makes me feel like I'm seriously wasting my money now that she returned back to normal. Not only that, but since she really enjoys going to therapy, I think telling her that she needs to get higher grades to continue her therapy sessions will motivate her to study harder and thus score better grades. My wife disagrees with my logic, and we had a massive argument because of it, which ended up with her saying she's going to pay from her money, which hurt me since I see my and her money as ours. My daughter is also really upset with me and was begging me to keep her therapy sessions, but I think I'm going to stick to this plan. Am I the asshole here? I'm sorry, but you are. Your daughter is 14 years old and has severe depression and anxiety issues that have been going on since she was little, and your solution to this problem is to cancel her therapy sessions because of bad grades? You're a terrible parent if you do something like that. I'm not saying it's okay for kids to get poor grades or anything, but there are plenty of ways around it besides canceling the one thing in your child's life that could help them with their mental health problems. You should be encouraging her to go back into therapy so she can continue getting better instead of punishing her for having a hard time at school. This isn't about money either. How much does $120 really matter when compared against someone who needs help? It doesn't make sense why anyone would even consider doing such an awful thing as what you did. If my parents ever tried pulling something like this on me, which they never will, I'd probably just drop out from school altogether rather than continuing with the shame and embarrassment after being forced by my own parents into giving up all hope at improving myself mentally through counseling. All in all, congratulations. You are the jerk here. Am I the jerk for getting back the money my husband took from our IVF treatment and gave to his friend? To start off, I want to say that my husband, 36-year-old male, has an old friend, 33-year-old male, that he's known since high school. They're inseparable and spend the entire week together. Like, they're really, really close. My husband and I struggled with fertility issues for years. We recently started a new method, IVF, in hopes to get at least one child together. Note that I saved for the majority of treatment while my husband only paid $2,000 to $3,000. We saved up for another round after the huge disappointment and heartbreak from failing the first time. That's just how it goes. This time, I'd put all the money, including my dad's inheritance, and my husband didn't pay a cent. Last week, I found out that he secretly pulled out $7,000. We had $11,000 in total, and I was completely and utterly shocked. I confronted him, and he casually reminded me of how many times his best friend complained about his old junk car, and he decided to lend him $7,000 to buy a decent car. His argument was that his friend would have done the same for him. I was beyond livid. I asked if he really thought that was okay, and he said that I shouldn't worry and guaranteed his friend will pay us back in time. I lost it on him and immediately demanded his friend to send the money back and threatened police involvement in case he refused. His friend immediately returned the money but told my husband about the police thing, and my husband came home and yelled at me, calling me unhinged and selfish. I told him I saved up some of this money / used my inheritance for this treatment while he contributed nothing, even though we're in this together. He corrected me, saying I'm the one with the problem, and he thought it's only fair that I make up for it by paying for the IVF myself. This hurt so badly, and I couldn't argue anymore. He went to stay with this friend while constantly shaming me for how I treated them both and for the police involvement like they stole from me or something. I'm so sorry you're going through this. It sounds like your husband has some serious issues and is trying to shift the blame onto you. I think that's absolutely wrong of him. I'm not sure what to say. But if it helps, a lot of people have gone through similar situations. Maybe you can look up stories on the internet. What is his friend supposed to do with that money? He's a grown man who can take care of himself, and he has a car already. You two were trying to have a baby. This is your marriage, your relationship, and it seems like his friend comes first for him. Also, I think it's important to remember that he's been through a lot as well. Maybe he has some personal problems too and is taking it out on you. Am I the jerk for forcing my husband to pay for my daughter's piano after he damaged it? My husband and I have been together for 2.5 years. I have a daughter, Callie. She is 13 years old, and she loves instrumental music, and piano has been her #1 interest. I'm not saying this because she's my daughter, but really, I see her talent as special, and more importantly, she uses it to express her feelings, especially for her deceased father, who passed away when she was 7 years old. She always says that she, in a way, connects to him through playing piano. So I encouraged her to do more, and her grandparents bought her a $6,000 piano that she was so thrilled with. The whole family encourages her, but my husband thinks she is being distracted from school, real future, etc. He doesn't attend her plays, doesn't help at the academy, doesn't even take the time to listen to her playing, and every time he comes home and hears her playing upstairs, he'd lecture us about how this activity is just a waste of time. I sat him down and told him about Callie picking up on that bad vibe. He got mad and said that he was doing my job for me and ensuring she doesn't get distracted from school, although her grades are good. We went back and forth on this, and I made it clear that this should stop. He said okay, and that was the end of it. On Sunday, a huge argument ensued in the house because my husband claimed Callie woke him on his day off with her loud playing. He issued an ultimatum: either the piano goes or he gets rid of it himself. I asked, where should I take it? He said Callie's grandparents' house, but Callie didn't want to. After we left, I found out that my husband took it to the junkyard his dad works at and cut it into pieces. A big argument ensued, and we literally had a screaming match in front of his family over this. I gave him 2 days to pay for a new one, despite him apologizing and saying he acted in a moment of desperation and frustration. He said the only way he could pay for it is using his savings that was supposed to go towards his new garage as a side business. He complained about me forcing him to pay and ruining his business before it even starts. He kept sending his family as a middleman to get me to give him at least 4 months, but I refused and stood my ground despite being called unreasonable since it's a piano versus new business. Am I the jerk for forcing him to pay and not giving him time? I can't imagine how hard it must be to have a daughter who is so passionate about music and then not have her father around to see her grow into the person she is now. I feel like your husband needs to understand how much Callie loves playing piano and how it makes her feel connected to her father. It's good that you were able to encourage her to play and pursue something she's passionate about. From what you've said, it sounds like he doesn't support Callie in any way when it comes to piano, and he doesn't even try to listen or show any interest in the things she does. It's pretty sad because there are so many ways for him to show his support without actually doing anything, like listening, showing up at performances, etc. As far as paying for the new piano goes, I think you should take your husband's word for it that he will pay for it, but also let him know that you need him to put his money where his mouth is, and if he can't do that, then there will be consequences for both of you.